All right, let's now go to Nigeria. More than 3.7 million people are facing food insecurity in Nigeria, with the crisis most severe in the country's conflict-affected northeast. Years of violence have displaced millions, disrupted farming and deepened hunger, particularly during the current lean season. Joining us now is Khatija Nxedlana, Communications Manager for the International Community of the Red Cross in Nigeria, to discuss how communities are coping and what support is being provided on the ground. Khatija, thank you so much for making the time. Welcome to Channel Africa.
Thank you very much for having me, Innocent.
All right, let's then talk about this. I mean, we do know that 3.7 million people are currently food insecure in Nigeria. Can you give us a sense of how this crisis is playing out, particularly in the northern east of the country?
Absolutely. So, as you rightly indicate, years of conflict in northeast Nigeria have displaced families. It's restricted access to farmland and disrupted local food production, which poses a huge challenge for communities who live off agriculture and livestock. In addition, we're seeing climate shocks, including torrential rains and flooding, which also significantly hamper agricultural productivity. We're seeing farmers having to walk long distances in order to access fields just to be able to grow their crops, they themselves farming on empty stomachs. And the reality is that if they are unable to farm now during the rainy season, they will have little to no food come time for harvest.
You're speaking about harvest and farmers. Let's then talk about the areas like Dikwa and Gajibo. What are some of the daily struggles farmers are facing just, to access and cultivate the land? I mean, you just mentioned some of them, that the issues around walking distances, but what are some of the key challenges that they're facing, these farmers?
So access to land, number one, is limited and often restricted for safety of farmers and for communities. So many farmers have no choice but to walk long distances to reach land that they can safely farm on. Mothers like Bintu Konto, who we spoke to, have to balance farming with caring for their children, knowing that if they don't go out to farm, there may be nothing to eat. So it's imperative that farmers and communities are able to access fields safely and have enough time in the fields for planting. Farmers need sustained access to land, tools, as well as to support in order to rebuild their livelihoods.
Yeah, Khatija, we do know that, the issues around malnutrition remains a growing concern, not only in Nigeria, but in the continent, some parts of the continent. What kind of support is the ICRC offering, especially for children and mothers in that part of the continent?
So if I may just start with the ICRC's Agricultural Assistance Program, this year more than 21,000 farming households have received seeds that are tailored to local climate conditions. Also, we've provided seed planting tools which help to reduce the labor burdens that are often placed on farmers, as well as to improve efficiencies so that farmers are spending less time in the fields. This support also includes both field crops and vegetables, including rice, maize, tomato, and which contributes to greater dietary diversity, but also nutritional value. Farmers are also trained in sustainable farming practices, not only to build their own capacity, but also to support continuity beyond the ICRC's intervention. Now, coming to malnutrition, because food insecurity contributes and fuels to malnutrition, especially with children under the age of 5, as well as pregnant or breastfeeding women, the ICRC also supports health centers that are called malnutrition stabilization centers, which help to detect and to treat cases of malnutrition. We also provide community training at community level in order to ensure that we're able to prevent malnutrition altogether.
But I'm keen to know, what are some of the hurdles that you're facing in making sure that you support these farmers and communities to sustain themselves? Are you seeing the government coming to the party to really join hands with you and make sure that this becomes a success?
So it is imperative that we work together with authorities. in order to access communities safely and implement some of these projects that the ICRC has. All of these interventions are part of the ICRC's approach towards sustainable humanitarian impact. So these seeds, planting tools are not just meant to last this rainy season or this harvest season, but really as a sustainable approach for communities to be able to fend for themselves and to grant them their independence and restore their dignity.
Yeah. So beyond the short-term relief, what steps is the ICRC taking to promote long-term food security and resilience?
Absolutely. So for communities that rely on agriculture, it's imperative that farmers and communities are able to access these fields safely and have enough time in the fields for planting. So for the ICRC, we will continue to support farming communities and farming households in terms of receiving these seeds that are specifically tailored to the local communities, as well as planting tools to help them spend less time in the fields, which is what they're currently doing.
All right. Finally, before I let you go, what is your message to the broader public and stakeholders as the crisis deepens?
So it is absolutely imperative that farmers and communities are able to access fields safely and have enough time in the fields for planting. Farmers need sustainable and sustained access to safe land, to safe tools, and to support in order to rebuild their livelihoods.
All right. Khatija, thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you very much, Innocent.
There you have it. Khatija Nxedlana, Communications Manager for the International Community of the Red Cross in Nigeria, discussing the issues around malnutrition in that area and also the issues of, food scarcity. That conversation brings us to exactly 21:31 Central African Time.